Hi all, I'm Jenny Liu. I lead on technology trade from the London office, and I'm also Invest and I's central contact point for DIT. So to bring to life some of the points raised by Charles, I'm going to run through some specific networks and resources and how I use them. Okay, so since I'm London based, I'll start with the Mayor of London. Now, although the 33 boroughs run most of the day-to-day services, spending about 12 billion a year, the Mayor of London in City Hall has a role in setting the overall vision for London and defining clear strategies on things like quality, air quality, spatial and economic development, transport and waste across all 33 boroughs. And it also incorporates the 4 functional bodies of Transport for London, which runs the tube and bus networks, the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime, and the London Fire and Emergency Department. So even on the website, there's just a wealth of information on the latest initiatives, strategies, and policies that could be of relevance to your business. So specific examples include things like challenges. So here on the slide, you'll see there are various different challenges founded by the Mayor of London, effectively to match tech startups and SMEs with leading companies and public bodies to create innovative solutions to some of London's most pressing problems. Tech startups and other startups as well, actually. And I'm sure they won't mind my mentioning them, but one of our companies, Elemental, won a Mayor of London's Civic Innovation Challenge for their social prescribing platform. And they were subsequently awarded grant funding to work in partnership with Ealing Council. And now Elemental works with a huge number of UK councils. So this kind of opportunity just leads to connections and opens doors. Also on the website, there's the TfL Innovation Portal. So here you can sign up as an innovator and receive updates on the latest challenges you could participate in. So one that I got literally last week was Transport for London working in partnership with the bus operators, and they want to tackle driver fatigue. So it's an open call to companies to apply with their innovative solutions that could tackle this issue. London is basically just one of the many smart cities that we see being developed all across the globe, and from within that there's going to be a host of programs and pipelines. So I've put this information here, and when obviously post-COVID the opportunities for networking at physical events, etc., will be great. And in the interim, these resources are here to inform you and to help make your business development efforts more targeted. And I've also put in there the Cyber Exchange, which is another useful site, sort of an aggregator site with a view of UK cyber sector events and networking. Moving on. So another organisation that I found really useful is KTN. So it's basically the Knowledge Transfer Network. It's a UK-wide organisation grant funded by Innovate UK, but it's not Innovate UK, and it's also not to be confused with KCP, which I know many of you will be familiar with. Its objective is to bring together businesses, academics, government agencies and research organisations to facilitate knowledge transfer and to build better links between science, creativity and business. So basically they just host hundreds of events throughout the year, cross-sector, specifically to help connect innovators with companies. So ones that I have personally attended physically and more recently virtually have been on the AI for Services stream. So they reached out to accountancy companies, including the likes of Capgemini, KPMG, BDO, and what they do is these companies list a challenge that they are facing, and they're listed out on the website, and then applicants can go apply with their solutions to these challenges, and then the selected few that are shortlisted would ultimately get to pitch face to face with all of these accountancy firms. So the last one, the accountancy one, was done virtually earlier last year. The one before that was physical, and so obviously great networking opportunity. And really it's just about knowing that these things are out there. So the last one actually I posted on LinkedIn, and a total of 10 companies were selected, 3 of which were from Northern Ireland. So again, it's just, if more Northern Irish companies know about these things and apply for them, the more we're going to get in there. So as well as AI for Services, they've got other streams. So they also have a manufacturing stream, which I have put a little screenshot there, where basically they will invite large companies, organisations from the UK. Here you've got like Network Rail, McLaren Applied, Arcola Energy, and there's a fixed format for each of those presentations. Anyone can register. I've registered for a couple of the upcoming, and it's basically where they talk about their supply chain and how to engage with them and what's coming up in the pipeline. So again, just a really, really useful source of information. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Financial services. So InvestNI has a membership with the FS Club. This is positioned as a networking group for senior executives. And their physical events were always hosted somewhere very old school, in the city, in the square mile, quite sort of intimate events and really, really good networking opportunities. So now they've moved online. They've got a great newsletter and a blog from Chris Skinner, who's like an author and a well-known columnist in the financial services sector. And with our InvestNI membership, we are permitted to invite InvestNI clients as guests to some of their online events, and I think there is also some other benefits there. So if you think this, have a look at this website, FS Club, and if you think this is of interest, just drop me an email, and I can certainly extend an invitation to you so you can experience some of their events. Like I said, when they go to physical events, they are really, really good networking opportunities. Just covering another association that we're members of, Tech UK. So this is obviously focused on tech. It's very closely aligned with government. Their aims are to shape policy as well as to accelerate innovation. They actually have an annual event, which in the physical form called the Smarter State, I found a great networking event to get in front of key government contacts, etc. And they host, again, hundreds of events. The membership isn't cheap, so obviously if you look and you see and you're thinking of joining, then I can certainly feed back to you or send you some materials they've sent out from some of their presentations, etc. before you decide to join. But it is certainly one that is a time commitment, and it isn't necessarily one of those where hard business development works. It's much more of a sort of softer, get engaged in the policy, meet the policy makers, and then sort of softly get your profile raised. Coming on to, I think this is my final example. I've just used British Water here to get a more cross-sectoral example here. So again, it's a membership funded organisation. It covers all sectors of the water and wastewater industry. If you're in this industry, this is certainly very useful, especially because they host supplier days with water companies, as well as education events. So I've attended an Anglian water event where they talked through how to engage their water innovation network, etc., and sort of routes in. I've also been to an educational event that British Water hosted where they talked through their 5-year asset management programme from a water company's perspective and a major contractor's perspective. And some of their events you actually can just attend as non-members. So again, if it's in your space, certainly one to run through, and that's it from me. So I will be handing over for more examples from my colleague Nick.
Thank you, Jenny. So what I'm going to do, sorry, my name's Nick Turberville, and I'm the head of trade for construction and procurement. And what I'm going to do today is run over sort of one case study of where a network has worked particularly well for us. It did take time, it did take effort, and hopefully this will crystallize to you why using networks is so valuable. So the case study is working with a specialist industry networking group called Build Offsite. It does exactly what it says on the tin, promotes offsite construction techniques, and is particularly useful within the London area. Obviously, the more you can build without bringing it into the middle of London, the better. So there are a number of members that were of interest to me. We were already a member of this organization when I joined InvestNI back in 2011, and I attended monthly, bi-monthly events for 3 years up until the event that I'm about to discuss that was the catalyst for a significant win for a Northern Irish firm. So some of the members of Build Offsite include the Metropolitan Police, ourselves, and Arup. And they have a number of events on as I say, a monthly basis, a lot of which are networking events and dinners. And I was invited to Tata Steel's offices at Millbank for one of these particular events, where I then met a representative of the Metropolitan Police. Further networking events did take place, including another one of Browns of Covent Garden, which I'll come on to talk about. So the case study was, as I say, around a particular opportunity with the Metropolitan Police. They were looking at moving from the old New Scotland Yard to New Scotland Yard in a building called the Curtis Green Building. The value of the works there was going to be £58 million, and it was a pretty complex project. At the event at Millbank, I was sat next to chap Rob Hartley, who is the in-house architect, and he was quite challenging, actually. He said, you know, what benefit is it of me talking to you at this dinner? So I explained who Invest Northern Ireland were, slightly taken aback by it, explained who Invest Northern Ireland were, and what we did and how we helped people identify potential suppliers. Rob conceded that actually it probably was going to be quite useful sitting next to me, and talked about some of the problems he faced on this project. I then decided that Rob needed to meet some suppliers from Northern Ireland to see if his issues could be addressed. And I went back to Build Offsite and said, look, could Build Offsite and Invest Northern Ireland do an event together to help Rob meet some of these people? He's not going to be an easy person to get over to Northern Ireland. He's got a number of projects on, and we should get some people in a room to see what can be done. In mind, I had one specific supplier, a company called Windell, who in the past have done ballistic and blast-resistant facades. I also pressed on Rob to say, it would be useful if we could bring some of your appointed suppliers along. And at this point, an architectural practice called AHMM had won the architectural competition for the project. Further down the line, there were to appoint BAM, Arup, and EC Harris as various key delivery partners on the project. And I'm pleased to say, to this day, I still have contacts at each of those firms that I can reach out to, all of which started with one conversation with Rob in Millbank. But to go back to the project and demonstrate how hard you have to work these things, we got Rob talking to Windell, and that was great. And then AHMM threw a spanner in the works, and that they wanted curved facades. And if you see the picture on the right hand side, that's the security pavilion at the front of the building. They put curved panels in that, and curved panels and blasts don't particularly mix well. This didn't daunt Windell and ourselves, and we said, how can we get around this? And Windell said, look, well, we're prepared to try and test and see if we can't build a solution for them. And they did some pro bono work where they built these test panels that you can see on the left-hand picture. AHMM were thrilled with the results, and so were the Met Police. But then BAM came into the equation, and they said, well, we sort of tendered this with another facade company in mind. So then we had another hurdle to get through to get BAM to trust Windell. And again, the same happened with Arup and with EC Harris, the Harris, the cost consultants. So at every stage, we were met with, oh, we don't know you, etc., etc. But we just had to remember that behind all of this was a lot of hard work and effort, and it was in Build Offsite's interest that this happened as well. And we eventually got to the position where a Northern Irish firm from Mahafelt ended up winning a security facades package worth £7.5 million due to Invest Northern Ireland being a member of a networking organization. And I hope that sort of brings to life a little bit, how hard you've got to work, but how useful these networks can be. And welcome any questions in the panel discussion at the end. But that's it from me, and I'd like to hand over to Eugene Mullen from Causeway.